What's going on, world? It's your man Chuck Creekmer, aka Jigsaw. You see who it is right here on the screen. My man Talib Kweli.
What's
He
good?
has a what's good, man. I just want to say congratulations.
Oh,
You got
okay.
this book, a
Yes.
physical book.
Physical, tangible book.
Right. A book.
It's a non-fungible book.
Yes. Vibrate higher.
Yeah.
Talib Kweli. I love it, man. I love it. First things first, man, congratulations. And second of all,
Thank
you know, what made you write a book? Now, I know we know your history, but let's just let's get this basic question out the way. What made you write a book?
Well, I come from a literary community, and I come from a community of book writers and book readers, and I'm around a lot of writers. And I knew eventually I'd have to write my story, but I was a little hesitant to write it even while I was writing it, because I was living so much. I'm still living so much while I'm writing this book. But I think I didn't know why I needed to write it until afterwards. And when I finished writing it, I realized that the story I'm telling, my perspective coming from a family of educators, growing up in Brooklyn and the years in which I grew up in, and my very unique perspective of being sort of in the back rooms of history, being on the front lines of activism, being on the front lines of underground hip hop in the early 90s, in the late 90s, that whole era, that whole raucous era, the stew that LP from Run the Jewels comes out of, the stew that Yasin Bey comes out of, that created the Kanye West of the world, and I would even venture to say created the Drakes of the world. That story hasn't been told in a book setting or academic setting. When you think about the books that tell the history of hip hop, it's largely about the South Bronx in the 70s and the early 80s. Is great documentation. There's a Netflix show, I forget the name of it, that does a good job of documenting sort of all the eras. I know they interviewed me and Gene Gray and a bunch of people, but just the era of the people who know about MF Doom and Madlib, the people who know about Kendrick Lamar and J. Cole, that era of hip hop, I don't feel like is that well documented. And I'm glad that my story could add to the canon of Black literature in that way.
Nice. Do you have any plans to amplify it? I know that a lot of books turn into series or films. Even. Do you aspire to do that with this? Because it's expansive.
I have a script that's based on the book that I wrote on my iPhone. It's like a 200-page script. And I'm not in that Hollywood world to know. I don't have those relationships that you might think I would have to be able to get that off the ground. But yeah, as I can see doing that. What I've realized from my experience with Hollywood, because I did try to get in movies at one point. I did go on a bunch of auditions and sat with agents and stuff like that. What I learned from that experience is that at that point in my life, I didn't have the discipline to do it. When you see somebody like Common and how he is in the film world, I watched him go from the music world to the film world. And the work he had to do, it's like he had to put music to the side and not really work with it for a long time. And I wasn't willing to do that. I didn't have the sort of mental fortitude to be like, I'm only going to do this. And so I'd be in auditions and I see actors that I recognize. And I'm like, well, I'm definitely not gonna get the spot if he's in the room. And so I realized that for me to participate in the film and TV thing, I got to write my own story, which is why I wrote my own script. And I have other scripts and ideas that I've written and things that I've attempted to get off the ground, but I just haven't put the time into making that a priority. Maybe I will now that my book is out.
Yeah, it's a great start. You talk about your first professional job and the impression it left on your life. Can you talk on that a little bit?
My first professional job, I guess, would be in Kiru Books. Well, not in Kiru Books, but Shakespeare and Company Books. I worked at Shakespeare and Company Books. I didn't have a good experience there, but I knew that I wanted to work at it. I knew that working at a bookstore or a record store, something that had to do with the arts, was the only thing that would make sense for me. I did try like a Wall Street scam job at some point, which I didn't realize it was a scam job until I went into it. And then I realized it was a scam. I left immediately. I detailed that in the book. But it was bookstores. It was Shakespeare Company bookstores. And Kiru Books changed my life though, because it was a Black-owned bookstore that was integral to the community. My job became my life because working at that bookstore became a hub for creatives in the community. Nelson George does a film called Brooklyn Boheme, in which he details what was going on in Black arts in that era of Brooklyn at that time. And I'm interviewed. Am I interviewed in the film? I don't know if I'm interviewed. Maybe, yeah, I guess I am interviewed in the film, but I know the film is about the homies. It's about that sort of triangle between Nkiru Books, Brooklyn Moon Cafe, Frank's Place, and Brooklyn Bogalon, and all the things that was going on in that area of Fort Greene, Park Slope, Clinton Hills. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm glad that I could document some of that. I forgot if that was even answering the question.
Yeah. You answered it, definitely. What's the you talk about starring in The Wiz in the book.
I didn't star, but I had a bit role in The Wiz child. Yeah, Michael Jackson starred in The Wiz.
Right. That's funny. Yeah, true.
But my grandfather, Stanley Green, rest in peace, he did play Uncle M in The Wiz. And my brother Jamal, if you know the movie, at the beginning there's a baby crying and they knock over a checkers board. And that's my little brother Jamal, who actually dropped his first book. Jamal Green, he's a professor of law of constitutional law at Columbia, and he dropped the book about rights, how our obsession with rights is tearing America apart. It's a very good book, and it's a good book because it's when you look at the trial of Derek Chauvin and how these cops go against these judges. The point he's making in his book is that the judge, when it comes to like civil and social things, the founding fathers didn't intend for judges to have this much power over the process. And so he's making the argument that we have to take the power away from these judges with these life-term appointments and everything. But yeah, he's a little baby in The Wiz, and in the scene with Lena Horne singing, they got a bunch of babies floating around, and I want babies, star baby.
I got to look at it again now.
Yeah,
no doubt. You started out. I didn't even know this, but you kind of got sort of your start with Funk Flex and club promotion.
Yeah.
And how did that play a role in you making this entrance into creating music? Were you always creating music and just
I was creating music before I linked up with Jessica Rosenblum, Stress Entertainment. John Forte brought me into that situation. Rest in peace, Big Cap. I was hanging out with DJ Enough, who's from Flatbush, Funk Flex, Mad Wayne, Budokan, Bismarcky. But I was already creating, but going to all those parties, Jessica was partnered with Diddy, and so everybody be at her parties, and I would meet rappers. I met every rapper and took pictures with all the rappers, and I was on the guest list. And Chuck, you a New York City dude, so I don't know if you from New York, right?
Nah, I'm originally from Delaware.
Yeah,
but
I
moved.
You spent so much time in New York, right?
So
you understand, and in the New York party scene, you know the type of you know what a club friend is. Like a club friend is somebody who, if you go into the clubs 2, 3, 4 times a night, you might see somebody 3, 4 times a week. You don't even know their name, but you giving them gap when you walk in, like, oh, and you like, that's my man's.
Right.
That's my man's. That's my club friend. You know what I'm saying? It was like, if you might be in one section, he might be in another section. Y'all might share bottles, but you might not even know this nigga name. You know what I'm saying? What's the guy see for the club?
Yeah.
And it was a lot of that.
Right.
Working for Jessica and Funk Flex made me helped me to understand that it was real. Yeah. I could reach out and touch. Obviously, rappers on Video Music Box, rappers on MTV, BT, and I go to club and I see them right in front of me. Right. So I'm like, oh, and that's just living in New York City. Yeah. So I'm like, this is real. This is not an abstract thing. This is something that I can make happen.
Right. Okay. Let's get to Raucous. I was actually listening to one of the Raucous albums yesterday. Sound Bombing Volume 2. Actually, it just I don't know. It just randomly showed up on my Spotify.
That's a good one. That's the one that people always go back to. That Sound Bombing Volume 2.
Yeah, classic material. Can you speak on how you got down with Raucous and what it was like to come through that space and the talents and I didn't even know they were not black owned. I just assumed back in the day.
And they were partnered with James Murdoch, who's Rupert Murdoch's son.
Wow.
James Murdoch has always been more of a progressive, liberal-minded person than his father. There's a movie. What's the movie? Bombshell. It's about the takedown of Fox News.
Okay.
And how they know that the owner of Fox, I forget his name, but maybe it's Roger Ailes, maybe not Roger Ailes. Yeah, I think it is Roger Ailes. It's Roger Ailes. there's a character playing James Murdoch in that movie, and they paint him as like the black sheep out of the Fox family. But he definitely was a younger man. He was in the hip hop, and he started this company. He gave them seed money, Jared and Brian, who then they went on to start Up Rocks after that. But you know, they were musicians themselves, both bass players who loved hip hop and wanted to start a label. And you know, they had the resources and the privilege to do what probably a lot of black people wanted to do but couldn't do in the space. Once again, it was John Forte.
Okay.
John Forte was an A&R at Ruckus, and John Forte would bring Jared and Brian. I used to live with Makiba Mooncycle. I used to stay at Makiba Mooncycle house. Prodigal Son from Sons of Man lived with Makiba Mooncycle. So it'd be Makiba Mooncycle, Heaven Razor, Prodigal Son, 60-Second Assassin,
wow.
You know, Rest in Peace to Allah's Son, Shabar Allah, Universal Soldiers, you know, like all at Makiba crib. And John Forte brought the Raucous dudes to Makiba crib. And we just all rhyme all the time. And they signed Universal Soldiers and they signed Population Click, which then became the Rose family. But I knew them from then. And then Mos Def, Yasin Bey now, did a deal with them. So now I'm like, my best friends, John Forte, and now Shabar and Allah's Son, and now Mos Def is all fucking with Raucous.
Right.
Like, okay, I need to go have a meeting with them. And I set up a meeting with them, and I sold them the Fortified Live single featuring Mr. Man and Yasin Bey, and it was off to the races.
Nice. All right. Now, Black Star, you know, we're still looking forward to some new material.
As you should be.
I hate to put you on the spot.
Oh, I'm never on the spot.
What's the deal? What's the deal? We need y'all now more than ever.
The album is finished. It's been finished for a minute. It's produced entirely by Madlib, and we are just looking for the right situation. I will say this. You can find Talib Kweli music. I got a new album coming out with Diamond D this Friday. You can find it on all the DSPs. You find the vinyl and everything. You can find Talib Kweli music on Spotify, Tidal. They all say me. You can find my music there, but I'm there because 90% of the consumers are there, and I feel like the onus is on me to go where the consumers are at. My relationship with the DSPs is not fair to me as an artist. It's not fair to any artist. Black Star as a group is not just Talib Kweli, it's myself and it's Yasin Bey. So Black Star as a group, we most likely will not be putting our music out through the DSPs because Black Star as a group, we feel like the DSPs are not fair to artists. And so we are exploring ways in which, in this era where artists are taking back their power from the distributions chains and the labels and saying, nah, that's our shit. Give us our shit back. In this era where artists are putting out NFTs and artists are having their own websites and doing like what Rock Marciano's doing, stuff like that. We as Black Star don't feel like we need to prostitute ourselves or sell ourselves short in order to get our music to the consumers or to the fans. So we are working on ways to creatively get this Black Star album out without being taken advantage of.
Okay. I mean,
you want to know what the holdup is. That's the holdup. So when we do put it out, we need the fans to support the creative and disruptive ways in which we are bringing it to you. Okay,
we're here for it, brother. I mean, listen, I'm like waiting for this to happen because I think that we have to begin to properly not even monetize, value the music that we love and support, you know, and find ways to do that. It's been normalized. And I didn't even know until Ice-T told me that a stream wasn't even a penny. He was like, and I'll never forget it. He said, I don't know a pimp that can break a penny into pieces. You know what I mean? And I was like, wow. Yeah. So, I mean, yeah. So let us know, man. We're definitely waiting for it. And we're going to talk about the new music too. So
absolutely.
I don't think I'm skipping past it.
Oh, I didn't. It was relevant to that point. So I tossed it in there.
Yes. Now, one thing to speak on another group, the Soulquarian movement, you talk about that a little bit, and you talk about becoming a man, you know, coming into your own growing up, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And can you speak on that movement and also maybe like what happened to it? Because that seemed to be the game changer of game changers.
Well, in a lot of ways. Nothing happened to it. It still exists. Okay. Amir Questlove Thompson came up with the name Soulquarians, and he was inspired by Jay Dilla. They were all in the Electric Lady studio where we all used to work out of. And Jay Dilla looked around the studio and saw that Amir and James Poyser and a couple of other people in the room were all Aquariuses. And he made that connection. And Amir was like, okay, we the Soulquarians. And at first it started with them all working on the D'Angelo Voodoo album. D'Angelo's Aquarius.
Right.
Amir being the type of guy who was inspired by native tongues in the way that we all were, and also being the type of guy who understood, and he made this clear in my podcast, People's Party, on the Amir episode, that Rich Nichols taught them, who was manager of Roots, who passed away, rest in peace to Rich, taught them that people are more successful when they have a team. So Amir has always been invested in sort of forming like Voltron, and everybody loves a team up. So he expanded the scope of the Soulquarians. They asked him to do a photo shoot and vibe, and images are so strong. So when they did the photo shoot, he expanded the idea of Soulquarians to include Black Star and Q-Tip and Common and Badu, who I think they're both Aquarius as well. So I'm not, neither is Yasin Bey, neither is Q-Tip. And so we did this photo shoot, but I got to be honest, we did this photo shoot because Amir asked us to do it. It wasn't like there was like some Soulquarian album. There wasn't a whole movement. But this group of artists, regardless of whether or not we refer to each other in public as the Soulquarians, we've always maintained. There was a group chat last year with all of us, just talking shit. When we're largely do concerts together. When you see Dave Chappelle's block party, well, that's us. When you see what Dave Chappelle did this summer at Yellow Springs during the pandemic, well, that's us. So it's like we all still together, all still working. You know, I just recorded several songs with Black Thought. I don't know which projects they're going to end up on, but we all still in contact. We all still working, and it's all still love. And so it's like we didn't roll out. We haven't, like, you can't buy a T-shirt. You know what I'm saying? It's not like a Soulquarians tour, but it's still there. Yeah.
Well, as an Aquarius myself,
that's why you need to know.
I'm like, how can I be a part of this? This is popping. Yeah, no doubt. All right. So, how competitive are you guys? How, like, you and Mos, you and Black Thought, Tariq, how, like, we know Jay-Z and 50 and Diddy and those guys are competitive.
Yeah.
How competitive are you guys, your crew, the Soulquarians and the extended crew?
I can't speak for everybody else. I can only speak for myself. But I know for me, I was extremely competitive until I hit 40.
Okay.
Once I hit 40, I stopped competing with other artists. I stopped competing with people in the industry, and I just only compete with myself now. I was comfortable enough in my own skin to be like, you know what? I don't have anything to prove other than myself. And so that's who I compete with now. But I definitely I will say that there are large parts of my career whereas people counted me out. People look at me as like the nerdy rappers. People are like, he raps too much, too many words. I don't like his voice. People found all types of reasons to be dismissive of my creative output. Right. Particularly because I'm always associated with giants, right? I'm always associated with people who impact the culture in such huge, iconic ways that sometimes people don't understand why those people fuck with me. You know, they be like, why does why does Dave Chappelle? People don't get it, but I get it. They get it. You know what I'm saying? Right. Sometimes this greatness is not for you to get, but I have defied the odds throughout my career because I was so competitive at certain points that I was like, fuck it, I'm better than all these niggas. Yeah. And so I did that enough to whereas I don't feel like I need to do it, but I know that only through the experience.
Gotcha. How important, well, family we know is important to you, but talk about your family. You discuss it in the book. And the and how complicated it is.
Well, there's two parts to that. There's a family I grew up with, and then there's a family that you raise as you're trying to have your career. The family I grew up with has been very supportive, and I'm honored and blessed. I just mentioned that both my parents are PhD professors. My brother's now an author, just like I am. I come from very, very incredible. My family exemplifies Black excellence, and I'm proud to be a part of that. But yeah, I mean, my family life it's hard for me to not talk about it in interviews and such because I talk about it in my music. So I don't want to be in my music and then I do interviews back. No, that's off limits. I've always publicly talked about my family, my children, my marriages, my baby mom, all that. I've never, ever disparaged anybody in my family, but I had to find a way to talk about difficult situations in my book without disparaging and trying to see all sides. And that was difficult. It was difficult. It was difficult. It's difficult to raise a family doing music for a living. There's a reason why the old adage is mama says don't marry a bluesman. There's a reason. It's very hard, very difficult. It's one of the hardest things I've had to do in my life, to be a touring musician and dedicate the time and energy I need to dedicate to that, to be successful at that, and also raise a family. And I mean, I have 3 children now, and they're wonderful, beautiful people, but yeah, writing about that was difficult, and I'm glad that the people who I care about, the people who mean the most to me, took everything I said as if I was being honest, in an honest way.
Gotcha. Now, you made headlines. Your divorce made headlines, I guess I should say.
It kind of did. It was getting out the same day as Kim Kardashian's divorce, so kind of got buried. I was like, you tried it though.
Yeah. You know, I'll never forget, and I think we can talk about this now because it's been so long. But that infamous situation, that fight you guys had at 50 Cent's mansion.
Oh yeah, that was a doozy.
Yo,
shout out to Who Kid for putting me on blast.
Did he?
Niggas be gossiping, you know.
Yeah. Yo, it's funny because to this day we never put that on our hip hop. We talk.
I gotta say, Chuck, and I meant to say this earlier, but for my book, and I want to get back into what you were talking about, but for my book, I was on the Washington Post and Publishers Weekly and USA Today and Jimmy Fallon and all these non-hip hop people supported my book, but all hip hop is the only hip hop source that is talking about my book. And I don't think it's a coincidence. I think that all hip hop, all these other, and we're gonna talk about all this shit, but all these other hip hop people who've written about the drama in my life, and none of them write about my book.
Right.
And so I commend y'all for, it's very easy. And I'm talking specifically about Hip Hop DX. Fuck Hip Hop DX and fuck The Root and fuck, you know, all these other people who claim to be about the culture, but they want to tear down architects of the culture and people try to preserve the culture. And all hip hop, I could imagine it's hard for y'all to maintain integrity in this environment when people are just looking for the clickbait shit. And it's hard for y'all to be like, should we report about this or not? Clearly, we'd get a lot of views. It would help our bottom line. But we also have respect for the culture. So I commend y'all because not everybody makes that choice. But please continue on with your question.
Well, first of all, thank you. I appreciate that. It is difficult. You know what I'm saying? And Greg and I make some tough decisions every single day. And we wrestle with it. You know what's going to make certain amount of dollars each click. You monetize each click. So yeah, man, thanks. But yeah, I mean, I don't even know what the question was, man. But just
about
you know,
you asked about 50 Cent and that situation, and I don't know where you were going after that.
Yeah, just to say that you made headlines. That situation, I think some of us saw it in maybe its worst form, and then it, you know, and then seeing a conclusion to that, and knowing, you know,
I mean that situation happened before I was married.
Right.
So
Okay.
So now that the book is out, and I've sort of talked about this, now that the book is out, here's the situation. I mean, this is very plain. You know, it happened years ago, so I can speak about it plainly. I was with a woman that I wasn't ready to be with, and I got caught cheating on her, and it was hard. It was difficult. It was unfair of me to cheat on her, and we probably should not have gotten drunk and gone to 50 Cent house that night, the day that I got caught cheating on her, and so she hit me. In public, in front of people. And so it was a bad look for everybody involved. And she forgave me for cheating. I forgave her for hitting me. And we ended up reconciling and we got married. But our marriage was not, it was still riddled with those type of problems. Those type of problems did not end. And so our marriage broke down and dissolved around 2015.
Yeah.
People know my wife. She's my ex-wife. She's a beautiful woman. She's a professional. She's somebody who has made a great name for herself in the industry. And so I did not want to disparage her. I didn't want people in our business. And when I was with her, I lived a very public life. We went to all the Black Hollywood things. We did the red carpets. We did the Breakfast Club together. I felt like that's how you had to be. I felt like, well, this is the step. You become a famous rapper. You get a house in LA. You move to Hollywood. You go on double dates with other famous Black people. And this is what you do. You know, you live in a very public way. And I from that experience, I learned that that's not what I want to do. That's not how I want to live my life. And I know that because I did that. Now my family's off limits. You can't. I don't share my relationships or talk about my newer child like I used to talk about my children when I was younger. Because now I see people take advantage. But there was no social media when my kids were little. My first two kids were little. Now people jump in your relationships and have all this advice. And social media, I feel like, had some sort of detriment to my situation on both sides, from her and from me. And so now we're in a situation where, for 5-6 years, I wasn't with this woman. I haven't seen her for 5-6 years. We haven't been in the same place for 5-6 years. But because I haven't publicly stated that, I'm still protecting her image. Like, if I see somebody talk shit about her, I'm gonna speak out. Right. You know what I'm saying? Just because we're not together doesn't mean I'm not gonna protect her integrity.
Yeah.
And that's what I got in trouble for last year. Not in trouble, but that's where I got penalized for, because I saw some people using her and attacking her to try to attack me.
Gotcha.
And so we have been talking about divorce for a number of years. We only just finally went ahead and did it this year, but we haven't been together for years.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Got you. Now, not to I don't even want to rehash all the stuff that happened social media wise or whatnot, but it's
fine. You know, I don't probably talk about nothing.
Okay. All right. Cool.
Come on, let's get these clicks.
Well,
get this monetization popping.
Let's do it. Let's do it then. So you know, you had a situation with a young lady. I'm not trying to be funny and saying that I don't really know the whole breadth of what happened, but I do know that y'all went at it back and forth publicly on social media, and they accused you of bullying her or attacking a Black woman, so on and so forth. Can you just explain your position on that and your reflections on it now? Maybe some distance has been put between that whole thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And forgive me if I'm a bit long-winded. I'll try to be brief with it, because I do have a lot of feelings about it and there's a lot of context. So sometimes I could be long-winded in talking about it. But essentially, the long and short of it is, obviously, I enjoy debating, some would call it arguing, interacting and engaging with people on social media, whether it be negative or positive. I always have. Normally it's me versus white supremacists. It's me versus like Proud Boys or the Nazis, or even like Black people who are in league with white supremacists. And what happens is, if I have an argument with somebody who may not be that, and I do not believe that this woman, Maya Moody, was any of that, but she definitely came from me and my family. And when people see people doing that, they align with them. And so what this woman did was, she allowed her ego to get involved. Well, to be fair, I suppose both of us allowed our ego to get involved, but she allowed her ego to get involved in ways where the argument started off where she questioned the Blackness of who was then still my wife at the time, and the Blackness of other people's, other rappers' wives. There was a statement made by a third party saying that rappers are not married to Black women. And then there was a list of rappers who were married to Black women, and my name was on that list. And this woman, Maya Moody, suggested in her tweet that these rappers who are married to Black women, these women are not actually Black because they're light-skinned. Okay. And while there's huge issues with colorism in the Black community, rappers have been guilty. Rappers in particular have been guilty of enabling colorist attitudes by rapping about our love for light-skinned women and putting light-skinned women in our videos. I have not done that. I'm more of a Black girl paying brown-skinned lady type of rapper, but I acknowledge the fact that I'm a part of a privileged group that has engaged in colorism. And so I think people bust shots at us, at rappers in general, that sometimes we got to take. But you can bust shots at me, but when you start questioning the Blackness of of my wife or the wife of other rappers, I had an issue with that, and I spoke on it.
Right.
And so I started arguing about that because I feel like the answer to colorism is not disparaging light-skinned Black women who weren't even a part of the conversation. She took issue with me taking issue with her, and immediately she started disparaging my wife. She just started disparaging the mother of my child. She made the mother of my child's picture her header. I was having a new baby. I had a woman pregnant at the time. She was calling my baby a side baby. All the stuff where now we're not arguing about colorism. Now you're coming at my family. Right. And so when she did that, it gave the racists and the white supremacist trolls license to come at me on her behalf. So she started retweeting actual Nazi trolls and actual and I don't think she knew what she was doing. She just found an ally in someone who was against me. But I take that shit seriously because these people have threatened my family for years now. And now you're tweeting and posting stuff from people who threaten my family. She claimed that the accusations of me harassing her and bullying her, she claims that she got doxxed. She never got doxxed. It's a straight up lie, straight cap. She never got doxxed. Nobody ever posted her address. Nobody ever posted her phone number. These were lies that she told. And that's why I say fuck Hip Hop DX, fuck The Root, fuck OK Player, fuck all these so-called hip hop sites that ran with this woman's lies and didn't vet. And the Griot ran with these lies too. I called them out, and they retracted the story and gave me a public apology. But then they fired Nicole Duncan Smith, the woman who wrote the article in which they allowed me to call out their lies, and they fired her because she was supportive of me. So fuck the Griot too. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it was like, wow. No Name, the rapper who I've supported. Anytime somebody asks me what's my new favorite rapper, I say No Name. No Name came out and they started comparing me to a rapist. You know, like it was fucking crazy. It was like, whoa. Yeah. All because these so-called hip hop publications said that I was bullying a Black woman. If you read these articles, go back and read them now with a clear head. There's no proof of me bullying anybody. Right. But there is proof that I was doxxed. So I got suspended from Twitter because like literally like 20, 30 people were calling my phone number because it was posted on Twitter and threatening me, threatening my mother, threatening my father, my daughter in particular. They weren't threatening my father or my son or my brother. They were my mother, my Black mother, and my Black daughter, all in the name of protecting Black women. And so I posted a screenshot of one of these threats, but I neglected to cut out the phone number. And you can't post phone numbers on Twitter. So that's why I got suspended from Twitter. But then they took the narrative of me being suspended on Twitter, and they said, well, look, he's harassing Jaguar Wright. And we all know how that story turned out. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And they were like, he's harassing Black women. So this woman, Maya Moody, she set up a GoFundMe. And when she told a bunch of lies on her GoFundMe and raised $15,000. Originally, she raised $20,000. She was asking for 20. And she said 20,000 to sue Talib Kweli. Right. So she raised 15,000 that she said that she was going to sue me. That was back in August. There have been no lawsuits. So essentially, people gave her money for her to lie about me, and they didn't get no lawsuit. Ain't nobody sued me. Matter of fact, if I was petty, I could sue her. Yeah, she took the money and. Nothing. And she would brag about paying her. She took her money, and then 3 months later, she was asking for rent money on Cash App. Somebody sent me a screenshot because I'm not on Twitter no more. I got suspended. But somebody sent a screenshot of her tweets. She asking for rent money on Cash App. I'm like, what happened to that $15K you were supposed to sue me with? Right, man, that's crazy. Has this taught? Like, is there a lesson? Is there a is it groupthink? What's the lesson here? I mean, it sounds crazy to me. Well, I want to say this because I still have male privilege. And this woman went all out her way. She contacted all of my business partners, told them to stop doing business with me. I mean, she really went out her way to try to, quote unquote, cancel me. And what I've learned, and I had the situation with Reese a couple of years before where she was lying on me as well. That had to go to court. And I had to get a court order, and I had to get a judge to be like, no, you're telling the truth. But what I learned is someone who has been falsely accused of many things, someone who they have tried to cancel for many reasons, and don't get it fucked up. The only reason they come for me is because I will not shut the fuck up about these racists. That's what it is. That's the people supporting these movements. It's not people in our community. When you look at who support these people as nameless, faceless, digital blackface, anonymous trolls. And these people are lonely people who need validation from social media. So they don't even vet the people who are supporting them. They just take support from wherever it comes from.
Yeah.
And so what I learned is it's only a problem for a man if you're guilty of what you're being accused of. Man,
Right.
I've been accused of Chucks. This woman accused me of raping and molesting a 14-year-old girl.
Mm.
And as far as to repost a YouTube video that a white supremacist made pretending to be a 14-year-old girl that I was molesting. Right. And this girl's like, I met Kweli at this show in Baltimore. He took me backstage and he told me that he said, fuck Eminem. And he said, oh, I mean, just things that a racist would assume that a pro-black person would say. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah,
and this woman's retweeting these videos of what's clearly a made up shit. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But that shit, there are people in my life who were like, Kweli, you have to be quiet. You know, my business partner, Uprocks, I love Uprocks, but there were some hard conversations where at one point they even did not, the interview I did with Common, they didn't post it that week because they didn't want the backlash. And I had to threaten to quit. I'm like, yo, either y'all stand with me or y'all don't. Yeah. They agreed and they posted the interview. But people even went as far to try to do that based on lies. Yeah. People was like, yo, Kweli, it's gonna hurt your career. And I told them, I said, this time next year, that woman, Maya Moody, is going to be the woman who tried to get Talib Kweli canceled. And this time next year, I'll still be doing interviews as Talib Kweli. Right. As evidenced by this interview.
Yeah, true indeed. True indeed. I got to do an editor's note. You know, I stayed out of the Reese situation because I know both of you. Okay. And that's where it becomes real tricky for us. And that was a harrowing situation. I still don't want to say anything because it's just I
mean,
it's
as long as
weird.
Reese was somebody who I considered a friend. You know, we got very close. We were spending a lot of time together. So much time that I started to really like this woman, you know? Yeah. And she's never been my employee. That's the claim. Right. That's the claim that's going around. Oh, you tried to harass an employee. Like, we were together in a hot tub and I made a move. You know, sometimes you make the first move. That's how a relationship starts. And she backed up. And then we remained friends. And then 2-3 years later, we still became friends. We still friends. We touring all over the world, doing shows together. She's sleeping on my couch, staying at my house. She signed to Javoda Media. We started working on an album. I went $50,000 in debt, but she was on some diva shit. She was very disrespectful to my employees to the point where I just told her, I said, I can't work with you anymore. And when I told her I can't work with her, I didn't say that. I didn't try to keep her on my label, nothing like that. I just said, I don't want to work with you anymore. So she did a GoFundMe where she raised $40,000, and the prize for if you gave her money was that you get a song featuring her and me. But it was a song that I laid vocals for years ago, but I told her that I'm not working with you anymore. So I'm like, now you're giving away my music for free. Stop doing that. And she refused to. So because she refused to stop profiting off of my music for free, I had a lawyer and did a lawsuit. Her counterclaim was that I sexually harassed her. Okay. That counterclaim was thrown out on his face immediately because there was no basis for her counterclaim. It was thrown out on his face a year before she made it public. Right. What happened was the judge said that she still owed me money. And so she would go to court trying to make her counterclaim. And the judge was like, well, no, that got thrown out, but you still owe this man money. And so what she tried to do was try me in the court of public opinion. And she contacted Karen Civil and Bossip and all them type of people and was like, Kweli did this. But the reason that didn't become a story is because I already had the court document to say that to already prove my point.
Gotcha. One thing that's recently hit headlines that kind of makes me think about this a little bit is the Black Lives Matter. You know, some of the allegations around them. Yeah. And I've seen you out there on the front lines. I've seen the stress in your face. I mean, you know what I mean? Like being really like a frontline soldier and an advocate, ally, you know, everything really. There's a lot of conversation in the Black community, and I'm not trying to condemn anyone or any of that, but there is a lot of talk, and we have mutual friends and we're talking. And so what do you have any thoughts on BLM making 90 million last year? And,
I got a lot of thoughts on it.
Various people buying these houses that are not stolen monies, by the way, from BLM. But, what's your viewpoint?
Okay, so people got to really vet their sources a lot better for information.
Yeah.
Most of the information that you see critical of Black Lives Matter comes from right-wing, conservative, racist sources. And some of it is from pro-Black sources. But when you peel back the layer and see where these pro-Black sources got their information from, you're getting it from racist, white supremacist, conservative sources.
Right.
I'm friends with Patrisse Cullors. I have a lot of respect for her. One of the founders of Black Lives Matter, who has been scrutinized right now. Let me start by saying this. There's no human being on earth that I agree with 100% of the time. There's no human being on earth that has never made a mistake or that is not flawed. So are the founders of Black Lives Matter perfect people? No. Do I agree with every single little decision they make or every single way they move? No. But their impact on the culture, what they've added to the conversation, and their work in the liberation movement space is undeniable. And I come from the era of being on code when it comes to the Black agenda. It comes to the liberation movement. I don't have to agree with everything Black Lives Matter does. I don't have to agree with everything Tariq Nasheed does. I don't have to agree with everything Umar Johnson does. I don't have to agree with everything the Nation of Islam does. You know what I'm saying? And I certainly don't. But you will never hear me talking negatively about any of these people. Right. Unless they come from me first. You know, you gotta come from me first. You know what I'm saying? Right. But I stay on code, bro. Like And I consider the people who founded and run Black Lives Matter, some of them are my friends. I consider all of them allies, and I have a great amount of respect for them. Okay. With that said, the 90 million Tory Russell got together with Mike Brown's father, and Tory Russell is somebody I write about in my book.
Okay.
As an ally. I write about Mike Brown's father as an ally. I have a huge amount of respect for them. Yeah. They got together and there was a statement that Black Lives Matter made 90 million. Black Lives Matter, they take in their charity donations through ActBlue. So if you really want to know, you can go there. It's public. It's a 501k, and it's pretty transparent and public where that 90 million went. Okay. I'm not going to criticize Mike Brown Sr. I'm not going to criticize, Tamir Rice's moms are coming at Tamika Mallory, because these are people who lost their children. So they have a right to have their righteous anger. They have a right to have questions. For my part, I'm satisfied with the accountability and the receipts that Black Lives Matter has provided for that 90 million based on my own research and what I know about them. Mike Brown Sr. does not have to be satisfied with that. Tory does not have to be satisfied with that. And I'm not going to ever disrespect their need to gain more satisfaction. And I think Black Lives Matter should address their concerns. Yeah. Because we all in this together. Yeah. But Tory and Mike Brown Sr. are not the New York Post. Right. The New York Post is a racist newspaper. Right. The New York Post is owned by Fox News Corp, which is the same people we were just talking about. Yeah. You see the New York Post describe Black Lives Matter members as Marxist. Well, that's Nazi propaganda. Right. Whether they're Marxists or not, and some of them have identified as Marxists, others of them have said we come from communities that were trained by Marxists, but I don't quite identify as one. They're not a monolith. Yeah. For the New York Post to write that she's a Marxist, well, that's Nazi propaganda. One of the chief enemies of the Marxists were Nazis. So that's a white supremacist dog whistle. They're telling all the Nazis, look, we side with y'all. That's first and foremost. Then they interview this dude, Hawk Newsom. They say he's a member of Black Lives Matter, Greater New York City. So I'm someone who's friends with Black Lives Matter, who's an integral part of New York City's activist community. Well, why haven't I heard of you, brother? Yeah. Why have I never heard? Why has Talib Kweli never heard of Hawk Newsom? Right. That's the problem. Why have I never heard? I'm down with Black Lives Matter. I've never heard of, and I'm from New York. Why have I never heard of Black Lives Matter of Greater New York? So, and New York Post is reporting as if it's a fact that this is a member of the same Black Lives Matter that Patrisse Cullors is a member of. Yeah. That is not a fucking fact at all. Yeah. This man has an organization called Black Lives Matter Greater New York. And I asked Patrisse and Melina Abdullah, who's down with Black Lives Matter in California, why they don't speak out more against people who do that. And they say, because we're not trying to limit the movement. We're not trying to tell people they can't say that they're down with Black Lives Matter, but it creates confusion. Because you have idiots like this Hawk Newsom character calling himself Black Lives Matter, doing interviews with the New York Post and not letting them know I'm not down, I'm not a part of that organization that Patrisse is a part of. And then when I'll go to his Twitter page, go to his Twitter page, and I know the Black Lives Matter agenda. I know what they fuck with and what they don't fuck with. And when I read his tweets, I'm like, he's not on their agenda. He's not on there. And I go down his tweets and I see it says Black Guns Matter. Hashtag Black Guns Matter. So now I know what I'm dealing with. Black Guns Matter was started by Maj Touré, a brother from Philly who was down with the NRA, who purports to be about teaching Black people gun safety. But this is a man who's friends with Donald Trump Jr. This is a man who Tommy Lauren posted pictures of her and him, calling him her Black friend. He is a Trump supporter. You understand? The reason why he calls his organization Black Lives Matter is because he is an opponent of Black Lives Matter. He doesn't like all these queer lesbians talking about he don't like all that. He's one of those, I'm an alpha male type of dudes. You know what I'm saying? And so the dude who runs Black Lives Matter Greater New York City is retweeting the Black Guns Matter dude who's a Trump supporter who's anti-Black Lives Matter. There's a picture of this dude, Maj Touré, when Candace Owens had her Blexit thing at the White House. These dudes were stolen to Tariq Nasheed, who again is somebody I don't always agree with, but we align with on this issue. You know what I'm saying? Like they trolling him, talking about we the Black white supremacists. This is what they said. That's not what I said about him. It's him and this kid named Vibe High who calls himself Hotep Jesus, who's a dude I actually had at my house back in the day because I thought he was down with the movement. When I had him in my house, because he was talking shit about Black Lives Matter. And I brought him on Twitter, and I brought him over my house, like, yo, bro, we all in this together. Is this a way that we can have this conversation privately? And he promised to stop talking about him, but then he did. He kept talking about him, and then he came out as a Trump supporter. So I was like, I fucked up by even having this nigga at my house. It's him and Maj Touré at the White House with Candace Owens and them, talking about they the Black white supremacists. These is the type of people that the New York Post is interviewing to say that Black Lives Matter is stealing this money. Patrisse Cullors is a best-selling author. When They Call Me a Terrorist, which is a great book, by the way, which I sell on my website, sold a lot of copies. So why shouldn't a Black woman who wrote a best-selling book be able to buy property? Why should she be? The main thrust of their story, if you read it, is straight propaganda smear campaign. The main thrust of it is she went to the Bahamas and she looked at property in an enclave that Tiger Woods and Justin Timberlake have property. Well, let's break that down. They interviewed the real estate agent. Who said that they didn't buy any, they didn't make an offer. So how is this a story, bro? So they not allowed. What if they looked at that and was like, oh, we can't afford it? You know what I'm saying? Like that's all dog whistle shit. They are mad that a Black woman who says that she's for the people made enough money for herself, honestly, through her own hard work, to be able to afford some property as if she's a white man.
Yeah. Man, you just broke it down. And I thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. I
can't
wait
to say, but we have to, Black Lives Matter, they have to be transparent with the people. Us as people, we have to hold them accountable. We have to do this. But not because the New York fucking Post says so. Not because Hawk Newsom from the fake Black Lives Matter says so. Fuck them.
Facts. Oh man, you settled my heart, man. Thank you so much. I mean, we definitely need transparency, but that's a good way.
Cite your sources, people. Know who it is that is giving you the information. Everyone has an agenda. Someone says, I don't have no agenda, that's a lie. I don't trust them. Everyone has an agenda, but is your agenda a Black agenda? Is your agenda the liberation of Black people? And if it's not, it doesn't matter how much truth you tell. If you're telling the truth in service of a lie, it's still a fucking lie. When Donald Trump says, this is on the ADOS website, when Donald Trump says, Black people might as well vote for me because you've been poor for so long, vote for Democrats, you might as well vote for me. Well, yes, it's true that Black people have been poor for a long time. That's true. But just because he's saying that truth doesn't mean he's saying that in the interest of helping Black people. When someone like Donald Trump frees people from prison, he's not doing it because he's against mass incarceration.
Facts. What do you think about how can we get our political prisoners out of jail? I see drug dealers getting out of jail. I see rappers that got knocked over some drugs or whatever, and something getting out of jail. How can we get our political prisoners out of jail? Mumia, and so on and so forth.
We have to make noise. Now is the era to do it. Now is the era. When I watch the Grammys and I see Killer Mike, I see Lil Baby bring Killer Mike and Tamika Mallory on, I see a black girl singing a country song about how she's proud to be black. I'm like, now it's the time.
Right.
Now it's the time to get Mumia out. Now it's the time to use this forward motion to get the political prisoners out. I went to visit Mumia when I did Prisoner of Conscience because I couldn't in good conscience drop an album called Prisoner of Conscience and not do everything in my power to support actual prisoners of conscience.
Yeah.
And so he was so bright and on point, and it was tough to see those recent pictures of him because he got COVID. But Malcolm X grassroots movement, the movement for Black Lives, all these type of organizations have been doing this work for years, and we have to support them more. And those organizations have to be more savvy with how they engage with social media. That's what I think the answer is.
Yeah, and it was funny because then Ice Cube came up with the black plan. Well, it makes sense.
Come on,
it makes sense. He had the the contract with Black America, but the movement for Black Lives was like, we got a plan, and I'm waiting. Okay, I love Cube. Let me just put this out here.
First,
I love Cube.
No Ice Cube slander will be tolerated on my watch. Just so we're
facts. Clear. Okay, cool. I love Cube.
Yes.
And I'm saying that repeatedly because I do. And you can Google me, and I used to try to look like Cube, the scowl and everything.
Yeah, no Cube, no us. It's like the Boondocks episode, the story against Delicious. Most definitely. Yeah. You know who my favorite rapper was? Ice Cube, man. I used to wish the nigga would come on my house and kill my whole family.
Oh my God. I guess what I'm saying is, I guess in the spirit of being positive, what I wished is that he had come in and worked with folks and said, what's going on? What's going on here? Or what are we doing here? Let's work together. The game, the Black America has changed a lot since 1990 and so on. So there's no question, because now I've just said it all. But we can't. Why can't we get together? Why?
Celebrity is very seductive, very dangerous, and I'm saying this as someone who has a degree of celebrity. My celebrity is not as prominent as Ice Cube's, but one of the reasons why I constantly ingratiate myself with activism and movement work is because of what you just said. I never want to be the dude caught out there not talking the talk that the activists are talking, because that talk is fluid and the language changes and the priorities change. I'll give you the perfect example. Self-Destruction, KRS-One, such an important record for hip hop culture, such an important record for liberation movement. But Self-Destruction wasn't about tackling white supremacy. It was about tackling black on black crime. And what the liberation movement has learned since then is black on black crime is not necessarily the enemy. It's not necessarily efficient for us to attack black on black crime. That's a racist dog whistle, because crime is largely based on proximity over race. White on white crime and murder is the same rate as black on black crime. So I'll venture to say that it was a little misguided of us as a community to be on that anti-black on black crime messaging. But the reason why self-destruction is still important is because it was the rappers more than anybody else trying to step up and take responsibility and accountability for our own neighborhoods. So I will never shit on that. I will never say that they shouldn't have done that record. I would never say we shouldn't be responsible for our own hoods, but we didn't have the information. We didn't have the sociological language to know that how some of what we were talking about could still help white supremacy out, right?
Right.
You constantly grow. And if you're not in touch with the activist on the ground, especially if you're as rich as Ice Cube, or especially if you live a privileged life that I live, sometimes you could get caught out there. I will say that reading the contract, there's nothing wrong with the contract for Black America in itself. Like, I reading through it, it made some points that I agree with. I would have did it different, but I'm not Ice Cube. But just in terms of solidarity, the contract with Black America was not anti-Black. It was not off code. It was firmly seated in the Black agenda, right? It was aligned with the Black agenda. But when you roll out there by yourself, based on your celebrity, you have a connected, not just with activists, because IQ did connect a little bit with the ADOS people, but they not Black activists. They're capitalists. They are white supremacists. They are white supremacists fronting as black activists. So by not connecting with some of the like movement for Black Lives Matter and the MXGM people, Ice Cube made himself a target for being taken advantage of by the right wing.
Okay.
So because he rolled out there like nah, this is the thing I'm doing, two things happened. The Democrats who were focused on beating Trump told Ice Cube, look, we don't have time to deal with that. We got to beat Trump. And if we beat Trump, then we'll come back around and we'll sit with you.
Right.
The Republicans told him, oh, wow, the Republicans have no celebrity that's trying to talk to them at all. So they got mad excited, like, yeah, Ice Cube. And what they did was they took pieces of his contract with Black America and they incorporated that into their platinum plan that Trump was rolling out. Now, the term platinum plan, I find racist and offensive, as if Black people are attracted to shiny objects. It's just a very sort of tone-deaf name for your plan for Black America. They took aspects of Ice Cube's contract with Black America, put it in their platinum plan, and then they started trolling. Then you start to see Eric Trump post pictures of Ice Cube at 50 with the MAGA hats on. Then you start seeing people thank Ice Cube for talking to Trump. Then the story becomes Ice Cube's rolling with Trump. Ice Cube is supporting the GOP. Ice Cube didn't say any of that. Matter of fact, while this is happening, Ice Cube got an album out where he's dissing Trump in his fucking songs.
Yep.
So Ice Cube has never been pro-Trump. Ice Cube was dissing Trump the whole time as an artist. But O'Shea Jackson, the man, the community icon, was like, look, I'm going to give both parties a chance to respond. Ice Cube publicly stated what happened, but because he was honest about it, he didn't pull no punches, and he didn't coddle Democrats, which is what a lot of Black leaders do. People mistakenly thought that he was siding with the GOP. What he said was, the Democrats told me they weren't trying to hear me right now, which was a fact.
Yep.
He said the GOP told me they would sit with me and listen to my plan. But then because they took advantage of him and tried to weaponize him against his own people, Ice Cube had to then come out and make a statement. He made public statements dissing Eric Trump. You know what I'm saying? And saying like, nah, you ain't gonna use me like that. But that story ain't sexy. Ice Cube speaking out against the weaponizing, that's not the sexy story. So now there's this narrative that Black and white people on both sides believe that Ice Cube has been supportive of Trump. No, he was never supportive of Trump. He tried it. They tried to weaponize him because, in my opinion, he didn't roll with the right crew. You know what I'm saying? But that doesn't take away from, at least Ice Cube tried something. A lot of us didn't try anything.
Right. Thanks. Do you get tired of being called a conscious rapper? Does that annoy you? I think it used to at some point.
It never annoyed me because that's a great thing to be.
Yeah.
You can't be one of the greats unless you drop a conscious record. That's facts. You know what I'm saying? So I'm glad to be identified as a conscious rapper. And I'll say this: every rapper that starts off gangster, they survive. Well, they a conscious rapper by the time they 40.
Right.
Run the list. Run down the list. You know what I'm saying? I just got to the party earlier than them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, definitely.
But what you're speaking on is, I understood that in order for me to be successful in this business, I had to push back against the narrative that a conscious rap is condescending and corny. And Complex Magazine did a whole article, 30 reasons, they love their list. They did a whole list, 30 reasons why conscious rap is condescending and corny. It was a few years ago. And on the picture they used, like a picture of me, like, so I took offense to that. I'm like, oh, I'm a conscious rapper, but they ain't shit condescending and corny about me. And I took them to task. And to their credit, they did a follow-up article in which they let me voice my opinion and let me get my shit off and call them out for it. But there's a very white supremacist corporate attitude to disparage conscious rap as condescending and corny. Yes, there are many examples of conscious and corny, condescending, corny, conscious rap. Yes, that's a thing. Just like there's condescending and corny gangster rap. But if you call yourself a hip hop publication, why are you not doing your best to uplift the conscious rappers who are not that? Yeah. Why are you not doing that?
Well, we have answers for that, but what did you think about with Jay-Z?
Forgive me, I'm still listening to you, but I'm gonna actually go put my computer in because it's about to die as I'm talking to you.
Cool. Lyrically, Talib Kweli, I know you've probably been asked this a million times, but did you ever feel a way about that?
I felt great about it. I felt awesome. The fact that Hov at that point on his last record, on his last album ever, was talking to me It was talking to the world about me and Common.
Yeah.
Well, I made my mark. This is what I did feel. At first I thought, wait a second. So if I wasn't rapping all this conscious shit, and I was rapping about money and being a capitalist, you mean to tell me I'd be close to a billionaire by now?
Right.
What am I here doing? But then I had to recalibrate. I'd be like, no.
Right.
If I did that, I'd be like a B level and C level Hove.
Right.
And then I want to get to the bag in that same way. The only reason why I am who I am is because I carved my own lane. There's a lot of rappers who run around with New York Yankee fitteds, rapping about drugs, who are not Hove, or who are trying to follow his blueprint. They're just lesser Hoves. And so the reason why Hove is talking about me on that record and Common and not those lesser Hoves is because we didn't do that.
Yeah.
So I had to recalibrate and remind myself of that.
Yeah. One time, this is completely switching gears. One time I was in a club, going into a club in New York, and I think it was a Queen Latifah party. Can't quite remember. And we were all in line, and Dave Chappelle is in line too. And I'll never forget, the bouncer didn't know who Dave Chappelle. We were waiting a long time. And I was like, yo, I was in front of Dave, and I was like, yo, this is Dave Chappelle, man. You better let him in. You know what I'm saying? So we let Dave, we graciously let him go in front of us and everything. Yeah, no doubt. What's the you guys are great friends, man. I love seeing the support system. Again, a little bit jealous, man. Y'all got this crew that's bulletproof. But can you talk about the friendship and the support that you guys have for each other?
Yeah. Dave Chappelle is a revolutionary. He's one of my best friends. He's somebody who is hugely inspirational to what I do. He's put money in my pocket. And we have some great things coming up very soon that are going to shock the world. The things we're doing that I can't speak on just yet, but it's coming soon. And I'm here in Yellow Springs right now. I'm spending a lot of time out here working with Dave, and it's all inspiring to witness that greatness in its natural habitat.
Right. Okay. You are a podcaster now. You're one of the rappers that is infringing on our livelihood.
I'm coming for all spaces.
all good. I'm not mad at you. I'm mad at some of these other ones because they're not good at it. You know what I'm saying? But you interviewed DMX in an interview that I look. I don't watch a lot of podcasts or videos of other journalists. This
is live, right, Chuck?
This is taped.
Okay, so if my computer dies for some, because I'm waiting for my engineer to bring the cord, but he might not bring it in time. If he dies, if we're not done, can we pick it up as soon as I plug back in?
Yeah, for sure. Cool. All right. You had the privilege of interviewing DMX. I'm not sure. Yeah, his. I don't know if it was his last interview, but it was definitely his last.
It wasn't his last, but it was. I feel like it was one of his best.
Yeah, for sure. Revealing. Honest. Classic interview, and I don't say that all the time. What was it like to get that type of honesty out of DMX? What was it like? You guys had a rapport that after interviewing him several times, I can say I never had that rapport. Younger DMX as well, so I'm not sure. Maybe his space is different now. But thoughts on DMX? God bless him, and the interview.
Well, when we did Hip Hop for Respect, that's how I met DMX. This was the year that DMX had 2 #1 records out. He was the biggest thing on the planet. And when we did Hip Hop for Respect with 41 MCs, DMX called me. I'd never met him, had no relationship with him. And he was like, I want to be a part of this record. What can I do? I told him when we'd be in the studio, all that. He's like, I'm in Miami. He flew me to Miami for me to do this record with him. Because he really wanted to be on the record. We never did the record because he was the biggest artist on the planet, and there was so many people pulling at him and vying for his time.
Right.
That we ended up just kicking it and building. And so DMX wasn't somebody who I called up to hang out with, but he's somebody that I ran into often. And whenever I would run into him, it was a long hang session. Right. And it was a good hang session.
Yeah.
And he was really a supporter of myself and a supporter of Black Star. So when I found out during the pandemic, I was in Yellow Springs with Dave that he was doing his show in Cincinnati, got in touch with his people. He said he's gonna come to Dave's and bring us crab legs. He was showing up 5 hours late because he was looking for the right kind of crab legs. He came and crab legs. He sang Bobby Caldwell. I put a lot of this on my IG because we filmed some of it. And then we did all that. We broke bread and hung out. And after all that, I was like, I felt comfortable enough to be like, can I interview you? Right. Because I wasn't trying to take advantage. I wasn't trying to get clicks and views out of my relationship with this man. But I just was like, yo, the quintessential DMX interview has not been done. And so I wanted to do it. And I didn't know how vulnerable he was going to be. He broke down, he was some tears. At the end, he does this rhyme prayer in which I broke protocol a little bit because even though we all tested, right? We all tested, COVID tested. But the way which we were running our business, we didn't show that we in the room together when I'm interviewing people together because we want to encourage social distancing. But it was DMX doing this prayer, and I'm so glad I jumped in the frame for that last part. You know what I'm saying? I got that documented now.
Right.
And he was just so gracious to me. And then the next night after we did the interview, everything was so powerful. He'd given so much of himself that I couldn't ask him for nothing else. He was like, yo, you want to play pool? Then we found some hood spot in Cincinnati. Yeah. And we took it over and we went and played pool all night, singing songs all night. So my last memory of DMX is a doozy.
Oh, that's blessed, man. Dope. Salute DMX, boy. There will never be another. Seriously. Yeah. But yeah, man. I don't know. I have such good memories of him, and we actually started our hip hop the year he dropped those 2 albums. So there was a lot of stars lined up that year, '98, for sure. You have new music coming out. It took me a long time to figure it out. I'm like, what is this Gotham? I'm trying to click this song Gotham. I'm like, I can't click the song Gotham.
Right.
And then I went and Googled it, and I was like, Oh, Gotham's a group. Diamond D.
Yeah.
Talib Kweli.
Yeah.
Gotham. Yeah. Salute Diamond D. We got to get Diamond D on our hip hop. It's been way too long.
Absolutely. Definitely now because we got the album out.
Yeah, for sure. Talk about this new group and this new music.
Diamond is the OG. He's always shown me love and support through my career. When I interviewed him on People's Party, the night before I interviewed him, he sent me 10 or so beats. So I was like, I'm going to impress Diamond. I'm going to record all these shits tonight. And so when he showed up in the studio, I played him all of them. And all of them didn't make the final album. But I just wanted to show him how much I appreciated his output. And so, but as we were sitting there listening to him, it clicked to both of us, oh, this is an album. And so we were going to release it before the pandemic, but the pandemic put everything on hold. And so now it's finally coming out.
Is there a different approach to music now that you're taking? That you're a little older, streaming things have changed so much, even in the last few years since your last project. And then my shit is gonna die any second. Okay. You wanna wait?
I'll come back as soon as it does.
Okay.
But this album, as I get older, I want to do more collaborative projects. I've always been a collaborator, but more like stated collaborations. So that's why you start to see me and Styles P, me and Knife Wonder, me and Diamond. I got another one coming up. That's a secret. That's I'm excited about.
Oh, come on! You could tell us.
I'll tell you off camera. But I want to do stuff that's documenting my story. I'm rapping a lot more about my experiences. This album, the Gotham album, is really about old New York, especially after the pandemic. New York will never be the same, never go back to what it used to be. And so for those of us who came up in the era where you get on a train from how you was dressed, somebody look at you be like, yo, you like hip hop?
Right.
Yeah. And you get a tape or a mixtape or a flyer. That era is not existent anymore.
Right.
This album is a dedication to that era.
Okay, dope. So talk to me about the this new song you have with Busta Rhymes. You talk about on Quiet Ones. You talk, what have I become? I was never the quiet one. And I listened to that song like over and over. And I'm like, what is he saying? What's the deep meaning behind this?
So I'm talking to myself sort of in that hook. And what have I become is a general question that I was never the quiet one is not necessarily a response to that question, but it was sort of me just sort of questioning my place in all this. And as I'm questioning my place in all this, I start talking about myself and I say, and I'm like, what have I become? And I start thinking, and I'm telling the audience, well, who I actually am. I was never the quiet one. I've been the voice of the people since 1991. Yeah. And so that's just, it's sort of talking about this idea that people have of why people are surprised that I am a loud, aggressive activist at some point. Why people are surprised that I will stand my ground on social media. Like, well, who did you think he was dealing with? I was never the quiet one. Yeah. You know, there's an adage that bad boys move in silence, and there's wisdom to that, and there's value to that. But that's when that's more talking about like hustling. It's more talking about like criminal, not criminal, but like subversive, getting to the bag, making money. You know what I'm saying? Like that's not really my shit right there. Even though I try to get to the bag, silence is death. Yeah, in my community. Yeah. You know, when you're talking about liberation movement and activist work, silence is death. So I'm stating I was never the quiet one. Busta, we played the album. We didn't even ask Busta. We played the album for Busta. And he was like, yo, what's that, God? What's I was like, yo, he's like, yo, he went and immediately knocked out the verse. And he approached it from a different place. His first line is, I'm moving silent, dude. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's talking about how he moves silent through the business. So he interpreted it a slightly different way.
Right. Yeah. Definitely. So the album's dropping now, basically. So, you know, hopefully this doesn't turn into a dated question, but who's on it? Who, you know, the rest of the album, what are we looking at?
Yeah, this album Gotham features John Forte, Nico Is, Naire All Day, Busta, Skyzoo. Yeah.
Nico, man, we got what we gonna do with Nico? Because Nico's a star, man. I'm like,
Nico is a star.
Yeah,
they sleeping on Nico. They gonna be sleeping on Nico until they not, and then they gonna feel stupid.
Yeah,
for real. Nico is one of the most talented, vibrant, gracious, wonderful artists that I've ever met, human beings I've ever met, and it's a pleasure to know him. And I encourage everybody who's watching this right now to check out Nico Is music.
Okay, definitely. You go from independent. In the book, you talk about the changes, independent versus major. Where do you stand on it all now? You know, in terms of what you would most like for yourself.
I think it depends on what you have access to. There are projects that I've done that have been better serviced by partnering with what you would call a major. There's projects I've done that have been better serviced by me being independent. I am blessed that I was in a major label system enough to get millions of dollars in marketing and promo. When the records that people most associated with, The Blast, Never Been in Love, Get By, records like that, those records were paid for to be on the radio. And so people who have this nostalgic thing with these records, but they wouldn't feel the same if those records were rolled out independently. Yeah. So I acknowledge that. And so because I've developed this cult fan base and this dedicated, I won't say cult because it's not negative, that's a negative connotation, but this dedicated fan base from the time that I was heavily marketed, promoted, now I could take that love and that promotion and use it for myself and exist in the independent space. I give props to people who have blown up independently without having the benefit of major label love ever. I had that. So I don't know what it's like to not have that.
Okay. So give me your assessment. I'm grabbing out the air and pulling it in, but I wanted to ask you about Kanye because he started out in rock. Well, not started out in Raucous, but he came through Raucous, that's something a lot of people forget. Again, no slander attempt here. But what are your feelings on Kanye, the evolution? It just seems, from our vantage point as fans, we're on this roller coaster ride, it feels like sometimes. And we're group chatting about Kanye last night, and I'm like, man,
did you check out the chapter in my book on Kanye?
I haven't gotten to it yet.
Well, I lay out. It's called "Wake Up, Mr. West." It's the name of the chapter, and that chapter is the definitive answer to your question. Like that chapter, like lays out my whole case how I feel from the time I met Kanye,
Okay.
Kanye in the Trump era. But
okay.
But for the sake of this interview, just to get into it a little bit, Kanye West is a vibe. Kanye West is a mood. And Kanye will tell you that. Kanye is not someone who focuses on always being right. He doesn't feel the need to always be right. He doesn't feel the need to always be correct. He doesn't feel the need to always be politically correct, right, and exact. He just wants the vibe to be right. And so he'll say and do outlandish things sometimes, or things that we consider outlandish, just to create the right vibe. As he's somebody who takes personal accountability. He apologizes a lot. There's public record of Kanye apologizing for a litany of things because he's just moving on whatever vibe he was in the moment. And take it or leave it, that works for somebody, that works for some people, doesn't work for other people. Largely throughout his career and his artistic output, Kanye West has been an ally to the solidarity with the Black community. Throughout his music, throughout his community efforts, throughout his associations with activists and artists like myself and Dead Prez and Common and other people. When he said George Bush don't care about Black people, which he actually did apologize for that, which I disagree with his apology, but he did say it. With songs like I Am a God, New Slaves, All Falls Down, countless examples of Kanye West being a positive influence in the Black community and an ally to Black people. Now we have to weigh that against things that he's done that, in my opinion, crossed the line. Him jumping on stage and dissing Taylor Swift doesn't cross the line, and that's not anti the Black agenda. Him rapping about bleaching your booty hole and or whatever type of wild shit be rapping about, that's not disrespectful to or against the Black agenda. His support of people like Candace Owens and Donald Trump and some of their messaging is absolutely against the Black agenda in my estimation. And so much so that I made it my business to tell him privately. I made it my business to state publicly. And I made it my business to not support him as an artist as long as he was going to be on that. As my friend, I love him to death. I would never not support him as a man. I'll never not go when he calls. I will never diss Kanye West. I will never throw Kanye West out. I will never cancel him. I can't be mad at others, though. If you're the type of person who's like, it's too much for me, his support for Trump is too much for me, and I just can't fuck with him anymore, I don't have a criticism for that. I don't have an argument against that. But you have not had the privilege of being in a room with him, and you do not have the same relationship with him. So don't expect me to feel like you. You know what I'm saying? In my private conversation with Kanye West, I feel like he understands the mistakes he's made when it comes to the Trump thing. I think he has more work to do in terms of speaking on that publicly. But I've accepted, for my part, that he's moved on from that. And I hope he can move on from it in such a way where he could take stock of it and actually speak to it. And Kanye is very clever. He's very good at music. It'll probably come out in a song. He'll probably have 2 or 3 bars talking about it that make everybody forgive him. But he's talented enough to do that. I hope he does that, and I hope he also does more work. And I will say this: shout out to Scott Budnick and Common, who do anti-recidivism work in the jails. And a couple of summers ago, I went to the jails. I went to visit prisoners, and you know who else was doing that at that time? Kanye West and Kim Kardashian. And I would see pictures of them doing it that they never spoke on publicly. So Kanye was still doing that type of stuff, even as he was publicly showing love for Trump. So he did for the audience to know, and some people will say too little too late, but he did rescind his support for Trump.
I'm not going to hold you too much longer, but
I enjoy it.
I
enjoy it too.
Thank you.
This platform.
Well, I don't get to have these conversations often, and you know me, man. I supported as many what you would call conscious rappers as I can. I'm in love with the genre, as you will, and I think that we're moving in a different direction. I want to say dangerous direction, but I don't want to get too high and mighty. No raucous pun intended, but I want to say, we need more balance in this game right now, and I don't mean us. I mean from this new crop of people coming up.
Mm-hmm.
But what do you look at when you see the state of the culture, if you will?
Mm-hmm. I mean,
What's
I played a long game. It's very easy to look at the Billboard charts and look who's on the radio and look at who's hot in the club and have this view of hip hop like, whoa, there's no conscious shit. It's all ratchet shit. It's all capitalism. It's all decadence and ill. It's easy to do that, but they want us to do that. They want us to think that it's like that.
Yeah.
When you play the long game and you look at, it's like I said earlier, if you're in it long enough, you're gonna be conscious. There's no other place to go. Ain't no other place to go besides the route. And if you look at the people, even over the last few years, I'm not as hip as I used to be. So I don't know who the new rappers are. But like, the Baby is an exciting performer.
Yeah.
But he makes pro-black statements in his music.
Right.
Megan Thee Stallion is an exciting performer. When she got the SNL look, she made a pro-black statement in her music.
Yeah.
Lil Baby is an exciting performer. He making pro-black statements in his music.
Yeah.
When you look at, and those are the ones leading the charge, right? Those are the top dogs right now, right? Unless I'm missing somebody. When you look at over the years, who has elevated to the top of the rap game? Who are the people who are unquestionably the leaders of this genre? Let's name them. Chance the Rapper, that's a conscious artist. Kendrick Lamar, that's a conscious artist. J. Cole, that's a conscious artist. They outsell everybody. So when you look at the short game, who's on the charts now, it's easy to be like, oh, there's nothing conscious. But when you look at who's playing the long game, the consciousness always wins out.
Yeah, facts. Get By is the when you say Kendrick, it reminded me of Everything's Gonna Be his song, All Right. The soundtrack to our lives, the struggle, the thing. What are your thoughts on the song now? And the impact that it's had,
on All Right?
No, Get By. Get By.
Man, that's my free bird. And I couldn't be, I'm so blessed to have that. Yeah. That's another reason why I'll never shit on Kanye West. There is no Get By without Kanye West. Right. I'm so blessed to have that. It's almost like Get By is almost like a member of my family at this point.
Yeah.
I was like, the reason why fans, my later music, I'm very proud of. I'm very proud of Gutter Rainbows and Gravitas and Fuck the Money and Radio Silence and these projects, the Seven and things of that nature. But my chief fan base don't know that music as well as they know Get By. So a lot of these people come to my shows. I've been the most, before COVID, I was the most touring rapper of all time. I tour more than anybody. Right. It's because of Get By. Yeah. There's a significant portion of that audience who's like, that's the guy from Get By. Oh, I'm going to see that. I don't usually go out, but I'm going to go see the nigga that may Get By.
Right.
So I gotta, you know what I'm saying? Like I gotta respect it.
Yeah. Yo, Talib, man, I just want to salute you. Thank you for your candor, man, and your honesty, and giving us this interview, man. Black media does not get a lot of love from rappers these days. It's tough.
Yeah, and you know what? And I'm glad you said that, because I was very hard on the black media all throughout the interview. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Because of things that I've been through with them. Mm-hmm. But that's something. The point you made is correct. Is that these artists blow up and then they don't deal with the black media who were there in the beginning of them. Yeah. So I'm glad you said that as well.
Yeah. But thank you, man. Any final words for us?
Yeah, I mean, QualiClub.com. Come visit us. Mm-hmm. Get the stuff from there. I hope you all enjoy the Gotham album. I made it for fans of all hip hop.
Okay, yeah, definitely. That's what Black Thought told me about his last album with Sean C. He was like, "Yo, I made this for us, for you," and I love that thought. I love that thought.
And I'm gonna add on to that. I don't make every album for y'all, for us.
Right,
I don't.
Right.
Some of these albums I make just for me.
Right. Gotcha.
But this one I made for us.
Okay, dope. I can't wait for it, man. Yo, thank you. Thank you so much, man.
Thank you, Chip.
Cool. All right. Peace.